everyone, welcome once again to Flash Discussions. I'm Captain Logan, and joining me this evening is the amazing Dan Torrey.
Hey everybody.
And look out, it's Beware the Steve Baxi.
Hey guys.
Today we're talking about the 11th episode of Flash. It's The Sound and the Fury. Really excited to talk about this one. This has been kind of an anticipated episode, I think, to a degree, because once we heard, oh, they're going to do more Harrison Wells stuff, finally, we're going to learn more about him. And what's really cool about this one, I think, is that we kind of learn more about Harrison Wells, but not all that much more than we had before, but it sure feels really important. Anyway, I'm kind of stoked about this one. Looking forward to talking about it. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Putting 20 minutes on the clock, and we're going to start right away with Dan Torrey. Dan, tell us what you thought about this one, and give us your best moment, your worst moment, sir.
I really liked this one. This was the introduction of Pied Piper, who's a character that I like from the comics. He eventually reforms, becomes Wally West's kind of sidekick in the comics for a long time, and that version of the character is the one they adapted for here, which was cool. Obviously, since he's evil here, he's a little bit of a different person, but he's still got a lot of the same characterization stuff going on. It's interesting that a lot of the Flash villains that are like the big bad of the series are all really calculating people.
Yeah.
Like Captain Cold, Harrison Wells as the Reverse Flash, because after this episode, it's kind of a given that that's who it is now. We see him actually like run around and use his powers. And Pied Piper here now, they're really calculating kind of people. Not that some of the other villains haven't been like that, but I feel like all the villains that have gotten Dimension sort of have the same personality to some degree, but for different reasons. I would like to see a little bit more of the variety in that regard. But anyway, I don't know, I liked the way his powers were represented in stuff like that.
We're losing Dan here.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
He seems to have stalled out.
Ooh.
We'll wait just a second, see if he catches up.
Enjoy this one.
Hey Dan, you flaked out pretty hard on us there.
Oh, okay. What was the last thing you had me say?
We didn't really get a best moment, worst moment, or anything like that, but I don't know how much you said, so.
Okay, well, I just basically said I liked the Pied Piper a lot. I wish there was a little bit more variety in the villains' personalities that are fleshed out, because I feel like all the people we've gotten so far that have gotten any sort of dimension are kind of the same personality for different reasons. I'd like to see a little bit more variety, but other than that, I liked the Pied Piper's powers, how they were represented. He's got like Shocker from Spider-Man gloves on, you know, continuing to make the show a lot like Spider-Man, which is cool for me.
That's a good point.
Doesn't look like we're gonna get any live-action Spider-Man thing for a long time, so at least we can, you know, have that. All the stuff with Harrison Wells was cool. I like that we're straight up just letting him use his powers on screen now, and I like the revelation at the end that his powers are kind of messed up and he's like extracting things from the Speed Force, and I think this is the first straight up mention of the Speed Force.
Yeah.
Really introducing that, and we know that the Flash mythos exists in the show. I was really excited to see that. Overall, I really liked this one. I thought the Pied Piper, for what he was rather menacing. I thought I wish they hadn't gone to the trope with him, too, of the villain who wants to be captured, because ever since Dark Knight, everybody does that.
Everybody does that, yeah. And as soon as they did that, it was really obvious, and it was hard for, even though this is a DC thing, it was hard for me not to sit there and yell at the screen, "Did you not see The Dark Knight? Did you miss Skyfall?"
Yeah, exactly. So that was a little off, but I don't know, like, I thought, the way that Wells ended up beating Piper was cool. I wish Barry...
Oh, man.
Would kind of stopping it. It's kind of stupid there.
I'm sorry, Dan, you flicked out on us again.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, we've got a pretty bad connection with you, Dan.
Yeah, I really wish Barry would start like fighting these villains of his own accord and figuring out some of this other stuff himself.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But you know, those little criticisms notwithstanding, I really liked this one. I thought it was cool.
Steve, go ahead and give us your thoughts, man.
Yeah, I agree with everything Dan said. Well, at least everything that I heard.
Right.
I really like what you brought up about Barry, about he needs to figure out how to fight these ones, because he's got super speed. The fact that he just stands around for them to hit him really bugs me, because he can move so fast that he can be back in a second with fully cooked food, but he can't like freeze for a second and see what the villain's about to do and run away. Sound does not move as fast as light. There's no reason the sound should have gotten to him if he was moving that fast.
That's a really good point.
That's really irritating me. But no, I love everything with Wells. I love everything with Joe. My best moment actually is a Joe thing, where at the very end, Barry tells Joe that he doesn't have to live up to Barry's idols because Joe's a completely different case. And it was really nice for that father-son moment there. My worst moment is the Iris thing. I really didn't like the Iris the reporter stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
That was really kind of, I don't know, contrived, or just I've seen it before. It feels like they're trying really hard to make her like some kind of, this is the all boys club and she's gonna break in and she's gonna be like this new hotshot, and I'm like, that's not really that interesting. But other than that, I thought it was a really good episode. Wells continues to be fascinating, and I don't know whether I understand him or if I just really like the actor.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that, but here's where I'm at with it, Steve. I'm glad you said that. I kind of feel like we're maybe not supposed to completely understand him yet, and I think I'm trusting what they're doing right now enough to be okay with him still being kind of a big mystery card. And there certainly have been episodes, like the crossover where I find myself trepidatious about giving it too much credit. But then with the Wells stuff, I feel like it's a lot like Smallville, where it's like there are things that they know how to write and things that they don't know how to write. And like, with Smallville, it was like the Lex Luthor stuff, they really knew what they were doing a lot of the time. And this show has the exact same thing with Harrison Wells, I think. With Iris, it's, your typical love interest thing. We can't figure out how to break the mold, so we're not even trying. But with Harrison Wells, all that continues to seem kind of inspired to me so far.
Yeah, I agree. I like everything they're doing. It's just a matter of I want to make sure when we get to the end of the season, it's not another Arrow Slade thing where it all falls apart on itself.
Yeah, it feels more sophisticated than that so far. But again, you gotta be careful with trusting it too much because I feel like I have the same thing with the show that Barry should have more with Harrison Wells. Which is, I really want to trust him, and it really, the show, and it's really giving me some reasons to, but then at the same time, it's giving me reasons from things before not to completely be sure about it. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's smart about certain things. Like, I don't think we can assume he's Reverse Flash just because his lightning was red, and they make it pretty clear that that's the case there. But there's something with him there, and that's still fascinating that he's got the costume, but he doesn't seem to have the same power set as that. Although, I have one question, and maybe this is my big criticism. Why is Wells not in jail? He confessed to knowing about that.
That was
the accelerator explosion. He should be in jail.
That's my worst moment. I didn't understand that either. He goes up and he gives a press conference and he says, "I did all of this," and then everybody just pats him on the back and says, including Barry, and says, that took a lot of guts. Yeah, you know why it took guts? Because it should have landed you in prison. The other big problem with that, and I guess before I go into my spiel, I'll go ahead and give my worst stuff. The other problem with that is this continuing issue that is compounding on itself with Barry, that he is way too naive when it comes to Harrison Wells. And if only we had not had that moment several episodes ago when Barry and he were at major odds, and he manipulated things to where that bad guy, I guess it was the bully kid? I think it was the bully kid. The
DC Comics Colossus.
Yeah, that he gets him out of their makeshift prison, knowing that he's probably going to die, and Barry is like, "Oh, we can't trust your motivations anymore. You're not anything like benevolent like I thought you were." And then you get to the end of the episode, and they just kind of randomly write it for no good reason to where he's suddenly trusting him again. If only we hadn't had that, his being this naive about Wells, I could buy a lot more. But because that happened, like he keeps getting more and more reasons to not trust him, and then you get to the end of this episode, they do exactly the same thing. You get to the end, once again, they just take it way too far, and so now it just kind of makes Barry look really stupid, and it makes it look like Barry's supposed to be like the optimistic and the optimistic and one, and then Joe is also that, but he questions things more, and so they just kind of have assigned people what they think about these things. So Joe still is investigating and questioning him, and Barry's not. I don't know that those are coming from character places. Joe's more so. But I don't know. So that is bugging me. But this is a really solid episode. I like that Pied Piper is not another one of these throwaway villains that's beat really, really easily at the end. Dan is always talking about those villains, and I was glad this wasn't another one. And naturally, of course, he's going to be a recurring thing. So at first I was impressed with it, and then you got to the end, and he has his trump card, and I was like, oh, okay, so he has a personality and stuff because he's not going to be a one-shot throwaway villain. They're going to bring him back, so that's probably why. But whatever, he's still really great. Did he remind anybody of Shriek from Batman Beyond? Yeah, good call. He's almost exactly like that. He's the same character. I almost wish he'd been called that. Although I know that he has, like Dan said, a lot of stuff in common with the real Pied Piper from the comics. But I almost wish they had given him, because I think the name would have fit better. I almost wish they'd given him Pied Piper's real name, but then called him Shriek instead of Pied Piper. That would have been kind of cool. Combine those characters. That would be kind of cool, yeah. Shriek's my favorite Batman Beyond villain. Oh yeah, mine too. His first episode I think was in my top 3 or 5 Batman Beyond episodes. Yeah, it's super cool. I'm gonna go through a couple notes real quick. Wells's house is amazing. Yes. Wells' house is a super cool house. That's why he's not in jail. He gave it to the city. Oh, okay. And you have to be really careful not to leave any evidence around when you live in a house like that that you actually are not in a wheelchair. And I thought it was really smart that Joe immediately picked up on that. That was really good. I at first liked the Iris thing more just because they were giving her something to do outside of the love triangle. But I'm with you. It is kind of typical. I have seen it before. I still think that actress is fantastic. Yeah, I mean, her character makes me just not like what we're doing with her or the actress. Like, that's not really fair, but that's just how I feel now. No, that's her character has got some really bad dialogue and some bad moments that just, even seeing her try to make them work is frustrating. This episode made me like Cisco a little more. Yeah, agree. I liked his history with Hartley, and I liked that moment with him and Wells toward the end, and how Wells is still managing to manipulate people. Most of that's working except for the Barry thing. I also another quick criticism before we move on. I wasn't sure about the way they... I mean, I like that it's this tete-a-tete chess game, and it's move-counter-move. I don't think they beat him too fast. But I did somewhat question that Pied Piper didn't think of the frequency thing. Yeah, that's a good point. Because he's got all those cars, and he's clearly moving them around. He's got some sort of thing with him. He would have figured it out. He's so... You would think that that would be one of the contingencies that he would have thought of for... Like, you'd think that he would have come up with some way to completely disconnect Barry's, head thing from Star Labs or something, but... Yeah, I could... Although, I don't think that had... Come to think of it, I don't think that had anything... I wonder how many moves ahead they're going to actually go. Yeah. But I did like that he had that big trump card, that he gets thrown into prison again at the end, and he still has, something else up his sleeve. I don't know if Dan can hear us or is still with us at all. Yeah, I can still hear you. Okay, cool. We will. Okay, because I can't see you. We will hopefully still be able to hear you, Dan. We will do our best. Let's go ahead real quick and go on to quotes. I didn't find this episode especially quotable. Dan, did you have any? Not really quotes. My favorite moment of the episode was music. Boy, Dan, we can't hear you at all. I tell you what, this is going to be really funny, but why don't you type a couple of things in the chat thing, and I'll read it for you, because we cannot hear you at all. Okay. Sorry. Steve, do you have a quote? I only had one. I had Wells' line when he says, "The winner of the game is the one that makes the next to last move." Yep, that was mine too. That's yep. No, second last mistake.
Oh, second to last mistake.
Yep. I liked Star City. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at Arrow notes. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Hang on. Let me see if I have any quotes for Flash. I went all the way to the end of my notes.
Wells's music.
Sorry, I was seeing if we'd gotten anything else from Dan here. Some people apparently can hear Dan, but we can't hear Dan. Okay, well, anyway. God, I wish I'd taken a language in high school. I thought that was kind of funny. When everybody's speaking French and he's like, I don't know what anybody is saying. Did you think there was a little bit in this episode, Steve, of Barry not knowing science as well as he's supposed to? Like... Because there's that moment when Pied Piper is like you're working with these people in Star Labs. The only thing that makes you special is your powers because you're an idiot. I actually had to remind myself that he was supposed to be a scientist.
Knowing that, yeah, he should have been smarter because obviously he.
Steve, you're breaking up on me real bad. I can't hear you.
Oh, man.
Yeah, suddenly I don't know if it's my connection or other people's or what. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yeah.
Boy, this is problematic. Okay, well, we'll keep doing our best. Okay, well, let's go ahead real quick and throw our trivia questions out, shall we, Steve?
Sure.
Oh boy, this is fun. Go ahead and give us a trivia question, Steve.
Okay, in the comics, Rathaway was originally born deaf. Who cured him?
Oh, I didn't know that, and that's kind of interesting that they gave him kind of that thing in this, but that it was, Wells' fault. And, something we didn't talk about is the whole kind of classic trope of the... Of like in these kinds of things of like a character that you're following making someone else. I almost said the hero creating the villain, but it's not like that. It's two villains. But you've got Harrison Wells who is willing to do anything to get what he wants, and he sees. I think even though he pretends like he doesn't, he to a degree kind of sees other people's deaths that he might cause as necessary sometimes, and this guy becomes just like him because he fights against that, and I think that's really super sad.
Yeah, agreed. I enjoyed their relationship quite a bit, and there's a little bit of what Harrison Wells was a year ago before the particle accelerator exploded, and what Pied Piper is now is really, really similar, and it's kind of scary that when you watch Wells in his private chambers, he acts like that old one-year-old version of the character. So you're not sure what version of him is putting on.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting. The reason he hated Wells in the first place was because he was willing to go ahead and turn on the particle accelerator, knowing what might happen. And now now in getting his revenge, he's turned into Wells, maybe worse than Wells. Although we don't know that for sure. He might not be worse than Wells. My trivia question is, what popular Arrow line and often meme is referenced in this episode during Wells' speech?
I couldn't believe he said that.
When they said it. That was awesome.
I thought that was so funny. And what's really funny, it's played in such a dramatic scene. But if you know Arrow, you're like, what? Really? Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I'm reading in the comments here that apparently I am Pied Piper.
Oh, really? Why?
Apparently.
I think it's because as you were talking, we had this weird garbled sound.
Oh, okay.
Let me see if we've got some comments here. We are already almost out of time, mostly because we've been fighting with sound this entire time. How ironic, yes?
I want to scream Google, but it's not as epic as Khan.
Johnny Torch thinks this was an excellent episode.
New England won the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Red Letter and Tilly's. The reason the lightning is red might have to do with the tech Wells used. Yeah, I don't want to read too much into the lightning colors because, after all, the Reverse Flash himself sometimes had red lightning.
He always has red lightning.
Oh, does he always have red lightning?
Yes, he does.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, well, okay then. Final thoughts, guys. I feel like there's a lot we could do with this, but we are out of time and having weird technical difficulties. We'll take a break here right after this show and see if we can't fix that and deal with it. So, anyway, Steve, any final thoughts?
Nothing off the top of my head. I like Cisco more, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
It's weird, because Cisco's a really obnoxious character usually, and he's always making these dumb jokes. But this time around, giving him someone to compete with, I think, really fleshed him out for once.
I questioned the flashbacks at first and then decided that they were more necessary than I thought they were, but when we're told about the particle accelerator, about the fact that he knew about the particle accelerator already before we get the flashback about it, I thought that was a strange choice.
Yeah, good call.
Because then we see now when we see it, it does reveal new information, so it's not like it's superfluous. Like, well, you told us this already. But it did make me wonder if you had to have them. And I know I harp on flashbacks a lot, but at the same time, I think I probably, because hindsight is 20/20. I think I probably found this villain more sympathetic because I had them.
Yeah, they did a lot with him in the flashbacks, and yeah, he was a jerk in them, but I think it ultimately worked, because at least he had something going for him aside from a gimmick, unlike the other Flash villains. I did think they rubbed the whole genius thing on a little bit thick. Like, not everyone who's super smart speaks Latin. That seemed a bit unnecessary.
I thought they were speaking French.
Well, they spoke French for a little bit, they spoke Spanish for a little bit with Cisco, and they spoke Latin.
Oh, I forgot about the Spanish thing. Okay, and I must have just missed the Latin. Okay.
Yeah, but they were constantly flipping through languages, and that was a little bit obnoxious.
And anybody thinking, oh, Captain Logan just doesn't know the difference between French and Latin. I took Latin in high school. I just didn't catch it. Yeah, I think it's more than just having something going for him. He actually has regard for life in a way Wells doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, he actually ultimately cares about people a little bit, and Wells is just out for, whatever it is that he's out for. We don't entirely know yet. I'm still really enjoying what we don't know with him. Let's go ahead and do the answers to the trivia question. Steve, what was the answer to your trivia question?
Okay, Pied Piper was cured by Will Magnus, who is the creator of the Metal Men.
Oh, that's interesting. You think they'll do that in this show?
I'm kind of hoping so now.
I didn't mention today's wacky Cisco shirt. Today's wacky Cisco shirt is Keep Calm and Han Shot first.
That instantly makes him more likable.
And then we also had a galaxy with a pin showing where we are. That was a shirt.
Cool.
The answer to my trivia question is, of course, you have failed this city, and I thought it was just super hilarious that they did that. Well, anyway, everybody, thanks for bearing with us through our bizarre technical difficulties, and we will see you again next week for more Flash discussions. I'm kind of hoping that we don't wait out until the end of the season before we get more of what exactly Wells is doing. On the other hand, and he does say at the end, he has kind of the time is nigh line, right? So maybe in a couple episodes we'll get a lot more of it. On the other hand, it is kind of fun that every time somebody says, I know your secret, it's a totally different secret. I'm really enjoying that. I spent the whole episode wondering if he was actually talking about the secret that Wells let out, or if he knows, or if he actually knew more about like the future stuff and all that, and that this was just like the move that Wells had to make was tell one secret, and this was the least compromising of them. But then it turned out that, as far as I can tell, the Pied Piper does not know about the Reverse Flash stuff. But maybe he does.
If he's thinking that far ahead, then maybe he does know about the future stuff, and we just haven't gotten a confrontation about it.
It is fun to give him an arch nemesis that isn't Flash yet.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks again for watching, folks. Be sure to appreciate it. I'm Captain Logan, and this is Steve Baxi.
Hi, bye, guys.
And theoretically, Dan Torrey.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Oh, cool. We can hear him. Thanks for watching, folks. We appreciate it.